to Athens. I think this is a great idea to be moving around the state to some degree and give some opportunities for folks to get training in different parts of the state. So looks like we've got an agenda here. It's got 11 parts to it. Has everyone had an opportunity, all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the agenda? All right. It's my understanding with regard to item 3 on the agenda, which are the preliminary hearings, that there are 2 changes. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but item B, which was case number 2022-0112-C, in the matter of Christopher Brown, that is now a consent order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And also with regard to item F on the agenda, it's case number 22-0150-C in the matter of Felicia Franklin Warner. That's also now a consent order. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So that's going to leave us with 4 items on the preliminary hearing calendar. The order that I propose that we take is going to be item A is going to be now 22-0158-C in the matter of Isomia Himmerly. I hope I pronounced that right, and I apologize if I didn't. Item B is going to be 22-0105-C, which is in the matter of Davita Huntley. Item C is going to be 22-0110-C, which is in the matter of Bathsheba Rim. And then the last item on the preliminary hearings, D, will be 22-0167-C, which is in the matter of Sheikh Rahman. Do we have any other comments on the agenda? All right, before we actually move forward with our first vote, I do need to remind the commissioners that our mics are going to be different here than they are in the commission room in Atlanta. All the mics will remain on throughout the course of the meeting. I just want everyone to be aware of that. So with the agenda as amended, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that it be adopted.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So that's what we'll do with regard to the agenda for today. First, we're going to move to item 2 on the agenda, which is the review and approval of the meeting minutes for the June 26, 2023 regular commission meeting. Have all the commissioners also had an opportunity to review those minutes? All right. Are there any questions or comments with regard to the minutes of the last meeting?
I have one minor correction.
Yes, sir.
My esteemed colleague over here, Commissioner Hicks, is referred to as Commission Hicks several times, and I would like for him to have the benefit of his full title, which he is well deserved.
I agree 100%.
It's where he made motions. That's where it appears.
Okay. And we will have those corrections made. Are there any other comments to the minutes from the last commission meeting? All right, hearing none, again, I'm going to apologize to Commissioner Hicks for that. I actually didn't catch that. So
I didn't either, so.
all right. I'll go ahead and make a motion then that we approve the meeting minutes from the June 26, 2023 regular commission meeting with that amendment. Do I have a
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we've got those taken care of. Item 3 on the agenda is going to be the preliminary hearing calendar. Again, item A is going to be case number 22-0158C in the matter of Isomia Himmerly. That looks like it's going to be Mr. Niddle, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and proceed. Is there anyone that's here on the other side or that's involved in this particular case? All right, I don't think so. So let's go ahead and proceed with that one. I'm sorry. Mr. Kniddle, I just pronounced your name wrong. When you have a last name like mine, though, I get all kind of crazy pronunciations, too. I apologize.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, I just, if you would indulge me for a moment, there is an item which is now item C on the preliminary hearings, Bathsheba Rem.
Right.
Her attorney is here, and it's going to be a very quick matter. I don't know, we can do the one that you want to do first, but I was just going to let you know that he's here.
Yeah, we're going to stick with you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, sir. Irwin, can you put that? Okay. This is case number 22-0158-C, the matter of Isoma Uriel Hemmerly. Just some background on this case, Commissioners. Ms. Hemmerly was a candidate for the State Senate, District 33 in the 2022 election cycle. She filed her DOI December of 2021 and qualified to stand for election on March 7th, 2022. She was unsuccessful in the general primary, which was held on May 24th, 2022. Procedurally, this was originated as a third-party complaint. It alleged that the respondent had failed to file 5 campaign contribution disclosure reports during the election year. An amended complaint was then filed by Commission staff in April of 2023, which added an additional CCDR filing requirement that she's alleged to have missed. And records were subpoenaed also, as far as banking records and things, and campaign records. The amended complaint also alleged that the respondent failed to file her 2022 personal financial disclosure statement covering the prior year as required by 21-5-50. And specifically, she didn't file it within the 15 days of qualifying. So the CCDRs under 21-5-34, the statute requires that candidates or campaign committees which accept contributions, make expenditures, and have filed a declaration of intention to accept. They need to file the campaign contribution disclosure reports in compliance with the following schedule, and that's under C2A, which is essentially there's the 6 reports that are required in election year: January 31, April 30th, June 30th, September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st of the election year. In this particular case, Ms. Hemmerly is alleged to have simply not filed a single one. Not any CCDRs were filed for her election year.
Even to this day?
Even to this day, yes, sir. And just at the outset, as part of procedural history, I don't know if the commission recalls, Ms. Hemmerly did appear at our last meeting, and she provided me with an Excel spreadsheet that, you know, I don't have a way to verify what's on it, but in any event, it was an Excel spreadsheet that she provided me with a list of names and numbers, but that wasn't imported into a CCDR, nor did I have the ability to determine the veracity of that. That's just the spreadsheet that she provided me. I communicated with her in the few weeks following that meeting we had in June. I know that she contacted her office. I asked her to please try and get these CCDRs filed so that I could work with her on these, because she indicated she wanted to work through a consent on it. After those few weeks, I've not had any responses from her. So this is where we are today. This is just showing the statute 21-550 related to the PFDS reports. The highlighted portion is simply indicating that the candidate shall file with the commission no later than the 15th day following the date of qualifying as a candidate a financial disclosure for the preceding calendar year. And in this case, she did, and to this day it's still not filed. She failed to file her 2022 financial disclosure statement, which would be a violation of 21-550. This is her DOI that was filed. You can see that it was filed in 12/27/2021. If you can see that at the top, if not, I can make it larger. And then this is from the Secretary of State's office. She qualified. It shows March 7th, 2022. And this is I don't have the exact date when I printed this or captured this image, but it was just within the last few days. There's still no filings for her personal financial disclosure statement. Again, this is the same situation, just showing that there are still no CCDRs filed by the respondent on our system. And this is, again, an image captured from our civics site e-filing system within the last several days. These next few images, I just wanted to show to the commission that based upon our investigation, she certainly appeared to have raised and spent campaign contributions in this case, or at least money in this campaign. This is from her website, and it's asking to donate money. These are Facebook screen images, and what I'm trying to show the commission in these, you can see there's signs. There are several events that she appears at where she'll be handing out door knockers or pamphlets, things of that nature. Again, this is from her Facebook. Ms. Hemmerly is the person on the left on that image. It's the left screen or left image, handing out campaign literature. The right slide shows various people with, you can see the signs, looks like yard signs where she's promoting her campaign. These are a little clearer. This is again from her Facebook. Then you have people wearing t-shirts and again more yard signs. Here she's handing out some materials. And again, folks with other materials. These are Facebook screen images are captured from her Facebook page. And there's two different billboards, electronic billboards that were done. I looked at those. They're in actually two different locations within Cobb County. And so at a minimum, she does appear to have made expenditures for t-shirts, for yard signs, door hangers, and certainly a couple of billboards in the staff's opinion. So, Commissioners, with regard to Ms. Hemmerly, we'd ask you to find that she failed to file her PFDS after qualifying in violation of OCGA 21-5-50, and that she failed to file her 6 election year CCDRs for 2022 in violation of 21-5-34 C2A. Are there any questions?
Yes, I know she was at our meeting last time, so did she get proper notice of this meeting?
Yes, she did.
When and how did she get that notice?
It was through our standard process where we send it, I believe it was FedEx or UPS in this case, and that is how we send notice to each individual. I also, just for the commissioner's information, I personally emailed her and advised her this is coming up on a meeting. I haven't heard from her. So,
There's been no response, right?
that is correct.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments from the commissioners with regard to this matter? Hearing none, I will go ahead and I'll make a motion that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Ms. Hemmerly violated OCGA 21-5-50 for her failure to file the PFDS from 2022?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. And I'll go ahead and make a second motion as well. I move that we find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Ms. Hemmerly violated OCGA 21-5-34 C2A for her failure to file CCDRs on January 31st, 2022, April 30, 2022, June 30, 2022, September 30, 2022, October 25th, 2022, and December 31st, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Mr. Knittel, anything else on that case?
No, sir. Thank you, sorry.
All right, the next case that we'll call for a preliminary hearing is 22-0105C in the matter of Davita Huntley. Mr. Knittel, is that yours too?
Yes, it is.
Is anyone else here with respect to this matter? Okay, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. This is in the matter of Davita Huntley. It's case 22-0105-C. The background on this case, Ms. Huntley was a candidate for the Atlanta Board of Education District 2 in the 2019 special election cycle. She filed a declaration of intention to accept campaign contributions on June 12, 2019. Subsequently qualified to run for the Atlanta Board of Education District 2, July 10, 2019. She advanced from that initial election to a special election runoff, and then was unsuccessful on the runoff election, which was held October 15, 2019. In this complaint, which was filed back on June 21st, 2022, Commission's alleging that she failed to file her December 31st, 2019 CCDR, and she failed to file a CCDR showing a disposition of unspent campaign contributions. She also failed to disclose $1,920 in expenditures on her September 9th, 2019 CCDR, on her CCDR that was filed on September 9th, 2019, and that she also failed to disclose $1,250 in expenditures on her CCDR that she filed on October 11th, 2019. We have had no response from Ms. Huntley, the respondent in this case, since this case has begun, and we have sent notice to her for the hearings. In this case, again, just for the record, candidates or committees which accept contributions, make expenditures, or file a DOI need to file 21-5-30. They should file campaign contribution disclosure reports in compliance with the following schedule. In this particular case, under C4, if the candidate is in a special election or special runoff 15 days prior to the special election and 6 days prior to the special election runoff. That's why we have those atypical dates on the CCDRs that she filed. And if under I2, any person who's an unsuccessful candidate in an election and who is required to file CCDRs shall, for the remainder of the election cycle, file reports as the same as if they were a successful candidate, and having excess contributions from the campaign, be required to file supplemental campaign reports no later than December 31st each year until those contributions are expended in accordance with the law under 21-5-33. In this case, as I stated, she failed to file a December 31st, 2019 CCDR in violation 21-5-34 C2A. She also failed to disclose $1,920 in expenditures on her September 9th, 2019 CCDR in violation 21-5-34 B1B. And again, failed to disclose $1,250 in expenditures on September 9th, 2019 CCDR in violation of 21-5-34 B1B. And she failed to file CCDR showing disposition of approximately $2,966.45. And I put an asterisk there because, as I'll show you in the presentation, that was per her reporting. When I went through with what was available to me, I think the actual amount of unspent campaign contributions would be approximately $6,136.45.
So would the motion that would need to be made, would it be with respect to the $6,136.45 or the $2,966.45?
Well, I believe it should be with the 613645, and would be more accurate as to what I determined from her looking at her CCDRs.
You going to tell us how that number increased?
Yes, I will show you this.
Okay.
First, just want to show the commissioners, these are the campaign filings by the respondent. You can see there that this is from City of Atlanta website. She filed her DOI. Then she had a September 2nd CCDR she filed on the 9th of September. And then her October CCDR she filed on October 11th, all of 2019. This is the first page of her CCDR she filed on September 9th, and that's the first CCDR of her election cycle. Now this I may have to. So this is page 2, which is her summary sheet of her CCDR that she filed in September 9th of 2019. She lists contributions of $10,074, and then she reports itemized expenditures of $7,531.78. I would submit that it's not a correct number. The correct number on this particular summary sheet should be $5,611.78, which would change her net balance on hand and make it $4,377.22. That's the $1,920 difference that I indicated to the commissioners earlier, and I'll show you more details on that. This is an analysis of what she reported on each of her line items in her expenses from her CCDRs. On the left, underneath where it says Davita Huntley, that is her summary sheet, and you can see there, hopefully you can see, her itemized expenditures show $7,531.78. If you look at the date and page for all those expenditures that appeared in the CCDR, which were reported by herself, those add up to $5,611.78. So that's the difference there. And those are what she reported, so I'm not sure how the math was incorrect on her itemized expenditures. And that changes the net balance on hand to be accurately at the $4,377.22. I know it's a lot of numbers, but hopefully that makes sense. And this is just a kind of showing up a little easier to see, because I know it's a little hard to see some of these slides, the same information that I just discussed. Any questions on that slide? This is page 1 of the respondent's CCDR. She filed October 11th, 2019. Again, her contributions, there was never issue as far as the math related to contributions. I just put that what that was on there because we need to show the net balance. Her itemized expenditures on this report show $3,796.77. Again, I submit to the commissioners that is not a correct number. The difference of $1,250 comes from unreported itemized expenditures, giving us a different correct net balance, the $6,136.45 that I spoke about previously.
So with regard
Yes.
to that alleged violation, what date of the CCDR was it that, had the unspent campaign contribution problem?
So there's two CCDRs that had an unspent campaign contributions, and actually I'm thinking I may have had a misprint in an earlier slide because I indicated both were from September. There's one from September and then this one from October 11th. The CCDRs that have unspent campaign contributions are.
Yeah, I was talking about the one, though, with the $6,136.45.
Okay. I think I might be able to answer that in a couple slides.
Okay.
Hopefully I can. Okay. This is the similar analysis on the October CCDR that I did for the September one that I showed you. Those expenditures listed on the right where it says date and page number, Those are the expenditures that she itemized, self-reported on her October CCDR. Those total $2,546.77. If you look at what she reported on the left-hand side, where it says summary sheet per candidate, she had reported $3,796.77, the difference being $1,250. And so that brings her net balance on hand to actually be $6,136.45 as a corrected number. So that number was arrived at as a combination of what she did not report in the September and also the October. Is that answering your question, Commissioner?
Well, again, what I'm understanding from the allegations here is that she failed to file that 2019, or the December 2019 election year CCDR. So I understand the date of that one, but again, when we talk about this $6,136.45, with regard to what CCDR does that apply? You know, what date?
Well, she never filed the December one. I would have expected to see this balance on her December CCDR, but she never filed the December CCDR.
So, okay, so both of those are from December of 2019?
The total amount I would submit would be, should have been shown up on the December 2019, which she never filed.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir, that's just a summary. She had that amount in unspent campaign contributions, and again, she never filed any CCDRs, since that October one. And so I would submit this to the commissioners and ask that you find that she failed to file her December 31st, 2019 election year CCDR, in violation of 21534 C2A, and also that she failed to disclose those expenditures as indicated on here in violation of 215-34 B1B. And I think accurately the number that she failed to disclose would be the $6,136.45.
And again, I'm sorry to go back to this, but I don't know if I'm following you with regard to number one that's on the screen. Is that on the December 2019 CCDR or?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't clarify that.
All right.
She failed to file that to show the disposition of those funds.
Go ahead. This is crazy. I don't have my flashing lights.
So did her last report she filed zero out? Was it a zero?
It was not.
Okay.
She showed money herself.
Okay, so then why are we not adding the additional violations of December 31st for 2021, 22?
I guess the answer to that is this was an older case that I took over, and I should have amended those. I did not, but she had been given notice of the prior complaint, and it would
When was
be-
that notice?
What's that?
Oh, so in that notice, when was that notice delivered to her? Do you have that date? When she received notice?
Let me ask if, do you have that available, Katie? Okay, we'll get that for you.
It looks like she was served with a complaint on July.
July 6th.
The top of the page says that she was served with a complaint on July 6th of 2022. Does that sound right?
Yes, I'm sorry, that is correct, yes.
And then that complaint does not show the additional disclosure reports. But is there a reason we can't add those? Because it has, that's part of the hearing, right?
Well, I think, though, that she's
not
only been
on
served with a
notice.
complaint. She's not on notice of the additional violations.
We could, after this hearing, amend the complaint to add the 2020, 2021, 2022 reports. But I don't think the commission can vote on that at this point, because all she's been given notice on actually July 8th of last year was what's in the actual complaint. But I think Commissioner Thompson's point is taken that we certainly have the ability to add additional violations moving forward.
Not that I want to slow these cases down. I mean, it's been open, but technically, I mean, she still owes all those reports. Unless her December 31st was somehow, would be able to be terminated if she decided to work with us. Okay.
So we would assume that $6,000 is still there to this day until we see otherwise. So we could cite her for this year, whatever the filing,
Correct.
I don't know what her,
It's, once you lose, you have to file every year until you terminate.
so it'd be the end of the year.
December 31st.
Each December until she terminates.
December 31st every year.
Okay.
You know, if another complaint was filed with regard to those other years,
It wouldn't
Could-
slow this one down.
well, no, my question would just be if they both went to the Office of State Administrative Hearings, could they somehow be combined for purposes of the hearing?
I got it. Yeah.
That's more of a Beth.
The judge has the authority to do that if it's for ease of administrative convenience, rather than severing it into two cases, but.
I mean, yeah, we
would
do
need
that
to,
all the time with two civil cases, you know, if they're based on the same set of facts and circumstances. If they, once they get time for a trial or hearing, you know, someone can move to consolidate those two cases.
So to the chairman's point, we could move forward with this, file a separate complaint regarding the other report she hasn't filed, and when it gets to OSA, consolidate for one hearing,
Yeah, and.
without having to bring this one back.
Right, but, you know, my suggestion on this would be to, you know, get this thing on the preliminary hearing calendar.
For
you know,
December.
Correct, so that
Yeah.
it doesn't slow the OSA case down.
I think that's a good idea.
We would need to hold that first case and submit them both at the same time if we want to get them both heard on the same day, just for time purposes.
All right,
But we
want-
can do that.
I want to make sure that we're not running into any statute of limitation problems on that, though.
Is this a third-party complaint or commission has stated? I don't remember.
Yes, we wouldn't,
We would not.
we would not. It's within the statute of limitations. We're fine.
Where you're. Yeah, if, because the law changed in the middle of this time period, but even with that fact, if we filed a complaint regarding the other reports that haven't been filed up to the end of 2022, and we had the hearing at the December 9th or 8th hearing, that would all fall within even the old statute of limitations, which is more limited, it would still fall within that time period.
Okay. Any other questions or comments with regard to this case? Any questions for Mr. Knittel, anything? All right, I'll go ahead and make a motion then, to find that there are reasonable grounds to believe that a violation of the Campaign Finance Act occurred on December the 23rd, 2019, failure to file the CCDR in violation of OCGA 21-5-34C2A. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. I'm going to now make a separate motion to find that reasonable grounds exist that Ms. Huntley violated the Campaign Finance Act by failing to file her CCDR showing a disposition of unspent campaign contributions of approximately $6,136.45 in violation of OCGA 21-5-34I2. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Knittel, because I don't want to leave anything out on this. I'm going to also make a motion that there are reasonable grounds to believe that Ms. Huntley violated the Campaign Finance Act by failing to disclose approximately $1,920 in expenditures on her September 19, 2019 CDR and approximately $1,250 in expenditures on her October 11, 2019 CCDR, both of which constitute a violation of OCGA 21-5-34B1B. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
All right. I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Anything further on this one, Mr. Knittel?
No, sir.
All right.
Do we have to do anything, or can this just be staff initiated to go, to add those other December 31st missing? Is that staff, do we need a motion, or is it just, no?
I mean, we might make a motion if it's necessary at the December meeting, because we haven't really found that there are reasonable grounds, at this point.
No, staff, that'll be staff issue.
Okay.
Right. All right, the next case that we'll call is case 22-0110-C, and that's in the matter of Bathsheba Rim.
Yes, sir.
I believe,
Kyle Paskey here on behalf of
P-A-S-K-E. All right. Well, Mr. Knittel, we'll go ahead and have you proceed, and then we'll give Mr. Paskey any necessary time to give a response.
Yes.
Mr. Knittel, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, in this particular matter, I've had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Paskey before our meeting here today, and I believe he wants to briefly address the commissioners. He's going to consent to the allegations being bound over, but I think he wants to just speak briefly to the commissioners. So there's no, we don't have any dispute as to the violations. It's very likely that he will be able to provide at a later date, perhaps some information where we can still resolve it, bring it back with the consent. But as of today's date, today was the day for the hearing, we've continued it before, so I've indicated to Mr. Paskey that we would have to move forward with this, and then he indicated that he would just consent to having it bound over.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, and I'm certainly going to give you the opportunity to speak, but there is agreement that, as alleged, Ms. Rim violated the Campaign Finance Act under all the different, I've got 4 different allegations, is that correct? You need to come up to the microphone.
And I can put those on the record if you'd like.
Okay, but
What violations are.
let him,
Go ahead.
So Commissioners, there's agreement, there's clearly wasn't the disclosures that were required were not filed. And there are, in the amended complaint, there's several allegations that funds were spent improperly. Those are disputed, that she improperly spent those funds. The issue that we've been having, the reason this isn't resolved, is my client had a campaign manager that was authorized to spend funds, to use funds. When we received notice of this, that the disclosures hadn't been filed, we reached out to her, we haven't been able to reach her. I finally was able to serve her with a complaint last month. And so we're hoping to get her cooperation in preparing accurate final disclosure. The complaint itself alleges that my client loaned $26,000 to her own campaign, and the funds that are improperly spent are well under that figure. And so this isn't an issue where my client has stolen money. I mean, at some level, it would be resolved through a repayment of the loan. But what I don't want to do, I've prepared a draft of a final disclosure. What I don't want to do is have my client sign under oath that this is accurate when I haven't been able to check with her campaign manager that everything we have on there is accurate. And so essentially that's been the delay. There's no dispute that the CCDRs weren't filed timely. There is a dispute, Commissioners, that each of these alleged, I think there was 17 paragraphs in the amended complaint showing improper expenditures of funds, which I presume were arrived at through bank records and various records that we provided or that were subpoenaed through this process. My client has explanations for 90% of them, but we would need the campaign manager's cooperation, which we'll hopefully be able to secure through the litigation that was served on her recently.
I just want to make sure procedurally that I understand exactly what's going on here. You guys want the case to go ahead and be referred to OSA?
My preference would be to postpone, but I've been informed that the prosecution, or I'm sorry if I'm not using the right words, that the committee here is unwilling to entertain another continuance while we sort that out. And so if that's the process, then that's where we're at. I would prefer that this be postponed, which I know the committee does have authority to do. I don't know if that has a willingness to do, but to provide us 90 days to complete that final disclosure and hopefully come to a consent on any penalties associated with the delayed filing.
All right, so time-wise, correct me if I'm wrong on this. So Ms. Rim was actually served with the original complaint on July 6th of 2022, is that right?
That's correct.
And then she was served with the amended complaint on October the 7th of 2022.
Yes, sir.
And there's not been a response filed to either of those complaints?
No, Mr. Paskey did file a response with the prior staff member, which I reviewed, and he and I discussed, I think, a couple of times on the phone. But there's still several matters in this that we don't have a response to. I mean, as far as the itemized matters.
How many times has this case appeared on the preliminary hearing calendar?
It was scheduled, this is the first time it's on the preliminary calendar. It was scheduled for last meeting, but we thought we had it worked out, so we took it off the meeting after that, a few days before.
So I guess it was continued then by the staff as opposed to by us as a commission?
Yes, that's correct.
Was that the first time, though, that it was placed on the calendar, and
Yes.
even if it was removed?
Yes, sir.
All right. I mean, I'm not making any kind of motion at this point necessarily, but is there any discussion from any of the, the commissioners about, just delaying this thing, to December? Again, it still at that point is just barely over a year old with regard to the amended complaint. I mean, I'm sort of understanding what Mr. Paskey is saying, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Knittel is trying to keep these cases moving forward. But I'm just not sure that there isn't, reason to go ahead and continue this one and make sure that it appears on the December calendar, and when it appears on the December calendar, that there is no possible way that we're going to continue it again.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Staff doesn't have a problem with it. Do you have a problem with it?
I defer to the commissioners.
Okay, so I'm in favor that we continue it.
Okay.
I agree.
Any other discussion before a motion is made?
If I may just.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I would just first say that I appreciate that the chairman has said that this is a year old. My client is taking this seriously, and part of the reason of the delay is that there's an oath on that CCDR that it's accurate, and she takes that very seriously. And so, I just want to emphasize that the delay here has, we could have done better, certainly, in getting this resolved, but it's mostly due to the fact that we just now got that lawsuit served on the campaign manager. So I would appreciate the commission's consideration.
Where is that case filed?
That is filed in, here, I have everything here. Cobb County Superior Court.
Is there any concern that that case will not have proceeded far enough by December to be able to, have the necessary information for December?
My intention, Commissioner, is, or Chairman, sorry, is to notice a 30B6 of the company that my client contracted with. So I've named Public Service Partners Limited Corporation, which is who my client's contract actually was with. But I've also named the owner of that company. They've both been served. My intention is to file a notice of 30B6 deposition of the entity itself regarding the accounting of the finance, and hopefully have that done within 30. Her answer is due next week. So the only concern would be is if she defaults. We had a very hard time tracking her down to get her served. And she did call my client a couple weeks ago after she got served, and so that's a good sign, but I haven't spoken with her. So my only concern would be that she defaults, and at that point, my client would just have to face the situation that she's gonna have to make her CCDR based on her best knowledge, even if she can't say that it's 1,000% accurate.
Well, I'm going to state, at least from my perspective, that, if this thing does come back on the calendar in December, and y'all haven't got it worked out. Again, at least from my perspective, I can be 4-1 on this and, this not happen, but, it's going to go forward.
Understood.
And so if you don't have enough information, by that time, you're going to have to come up with something else.
Okay.
Does your client not have access to the bank account?
We do. We have the bank accounts. The problem is that there's cash withdrawals that we believe were used for,
Well, that's a violation.
we believe that there were used for, at the campaign manager's direction, used for campaign expenses, and we're hopeful that we can get some more answers on that. And to your point, figure out what the violations were, and then enter into hopefully some type of consent agreement.
Yeah, this is the complaint where a lot of the transfers were from the campaign account to other accounts that unfortunately, and she uses the same bank I do, it's very cryptic what that other account is, so we don't know. I mean,
And I guess I should say, just for the record, since this is on the record, when I say cash transactions, I think it was Cash App or different payment methods. I don't know if that makes a difference, but yes, so there's some, I think there's 17 itemized transactions in the amended complaint, and there's just a couple of them that I think we need further explanation on to clarify what it is. Is that a reimbursement? We need some clarification from the campaign manager as to what that was.
Any other questions, comments? I'll go ahead and make the motion. I'm going to move that case number 22-0110-C in the matter of Bathsheba Rim be continued to the next meeting of the commission in December of 2022.
second,
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll go ahead and continue that then to the December.
And I will point out, I share the chairman's view that December's, I mean, I'm not saying never, but you have your 90 days.
Understood, thank you.
Well, at least it might be 3-2 if we lose
Right.
that one.
Okay, hopefully that won't be an issue. May I be excused?
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you.
I would love to see a consent order for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, to all of my cases.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are we good? Commissioner Hicks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, we have Mr. Rahman on via Zoom for this next case.
Let me go ahead and call that one first, okay?
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and call for preliminary hearings. It's case number 22-0167-C in the matter of Sheikh Rahman. Mr. Cusack?
Yes. Commissioners, this is case 22-0167-C in the matter of Sheikh Rahman. This case resulted from the General Assembly audit from the 2022 election cycle. This was a commission-initiated complaint after the election cycle had ended, but before the final report was due on December 30th. So this case was initiated on December 21st of 2022. As part of the standard practice in a case like this where there were multiple missing disclosure reports, there was a subpoena sent to the campaign for the campaign bank records, and the campaign never responded to that subpoena. Because Mr. Rahman had had another case with the commission and we had required bank records for that one, I was able to actually go back into our archives and figure out where he banked and send a subpoena to the bank directly for the bank records in this case. And that was sent April 22nd, 2023, and I received those bank records in May of 2023. With those bank records, there was a notice of additional allegations filed on July 31st of 2023 after I conducted an audit of those records and matched them up with the disclosure reports. And there were some expenditures that were not reported. The contributions we matched up, I was able to figure out that some of the PAC contributions that were showing as made in our system ultimately were never deposited by the campaign. So it's only going to be expenditures I'm actually going to talk about at a later portion of this presentation. Mr. Rahman is a state senator representing District 5 since his election in the 2018 election cycle. In this case, we're alleging he's failed to file numerous election year reports, and there is a non-election year report that was not filed as well. He has a prior case that came before the commission via consent order. It was 2019-0040, and that was from our 2018 legislative audit. And there was no, that was for a lack of filing contributions and expenditures. So that's what that had to deal with. It was a $1,000 civil penalty for that consent order, but there was a prior case that he had been involved with in front of the commission.
What's the procedural history on this one? Have you had an opportunity, to try to work this one out?
It's been a little strange. I've not heard until about 2 weeks ago, we got a call from someone representing Mr. Rahman's campaign through our office. It didn't go to me, even though any filing that's made or any complaint that's initiated or any subpoena that's sent, any additional allegations that are filed by us, it has my name on it, says to contact me, gives my email and phone number to my desk line. In this case, our commission staff, the education portion of our office, was contacted about trying to help out with figuring out what's going on with the filings. We had calls go to our front desk. I never actually got a call. Mr. Rahman emailed me Tuesday of this week at around 4 o'clock, asking to join the hearing. And that was the first discussion or first contact I had with him regarding this case. So that's sort of where we're at procedurally wise. I made an initial offer yesterday via email to try to resolve the case, but he asked for the Zoom link to join us today for this hearing. So that's sort of where we've been at with this case.
Did you say he declined to join?
No, he's joining via Zoom right now.
Okay.
So he asked for the link for the Zoom to join. During election years, OCGA 21534 lays out the filing schedule for candidates during election years. You have 6 filings: January 31st, April 30th, June 30th, September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st. Part of the reason we do this legislative audit every year is because these reports are really the most important reports. They're the election year reports. The public takes notice of them, and we want to make sure all the candidates are filing these so that the public's properly informed what's going on in election year, where your money's coming from, where you're spending your money. These are probably the most important reports that a candidate will file because the public is paying attention during an election year.
And Mr. Cusack, if I can interrupt you for just a moment, the other, for the record, for the public that's following along, the other key reason we do the legislative audit after each cycle, and in 2020 with COVID was an exception, but other than that, and the House and Senate have different rules, but lack of filings and different violations actually can impact their eligibility to serve on standing committees. So it's actually a request we get from the legislature itself that we make sure we do these after every cycle.
Yes, and they very much want to be informed who has not filed and try to bring people into compliance. This is Mr. Rahman's account. This was what went out with the initial complaint. I know that is very blurry. That's not how it was supposed to show up.
It's hard in the packet, too.
Yeah, it's not the best picture, but I can show this. These are the reports that were actually filed. You can see there are the due dates for 2022, but what is missing is a June 30th, a September 30th, and an October 25th election year report. If you notice when this was filed December 21st of 2022, so the December 31st report was coming up. And this was us trying to get people to make sure they were filing reports before the General Assembly was in session. So that's why there's not a December 31st report that was in this complaint that was ultimately filed. But this case was filed on December 22nd of 2022. So there's 3 election year reports right now that we're missing. 21534 also outlines for the General Assembly what the non-election year reporting are, non-election year disclosure reports when they're due, and those are due on January 31st and June 30th. In this matter, Mr. Ramon filed the January 31st report, but the June 30th was not filed. He went back after this complaint was filed the missing reports that I referenced earlier, the election year reports, but I'm going to talk about the issues with those a little in probably the next couple slides. So here we have the failure to file a June 30th, 2023 non-election year campaign disclosure report. So that's what that previous slide was showing. 21534B1B outlines how candidates are supposed to disclose expenditures. Basically the same way as contributions, but expenditures of more than $100, you need to show the amount, date of the expenditure, name and mailing address of the recipient receiving the expenditure, the occupation and name of their employer if it's an individual, and a general purpose of the expenditure. So say you purchase yard signs from a sign store, you would then say, I purchased $500 worth of yard signs from Signs Plus. They're located at whatever address they're located at. The purpose of this is for yard signs. So that's how candidates are supposed to disclose their expenditures on their disclosure reports. As part of this case, subpoenaed the Wells Fargo bank account, and ultimately we was able to determine that when Mr. Ramon went back and actually did these filings for the time period that was missing, there are numerous expenditures that were left out and not reported. And I've highlighted all those from the bank account here, where there are no unitemized expenditures reported, meaning on that face sheet, when you do the initial filing, you have to say what the total amount of unitemized expenditures were. So say you have, like, take for example here, there's a couple times where he's buying gasoline, and if you're doing that in relation to a campaign event or fulfillment of your public office and it's under $100, you take that, if it's different gas stations, you would say at the end of the month, $1,500.10 in gasoline for that one non-itemized expenditure spot. So you'd be adding those up. All of the campaign disclosure reports here just show $0. So it shows that there was no unitemized expenditures that were actually reported as being made. And so that's part of the allegations that's I'm going to mention later, but those were never reported. Some of these are over $100. You can see there are various contributions made to candidates that are just never on a disclosure report anywhere. Perfectly legal expenditures, they just have to be reported, and they're never reported by the campaign. So there's numerous, I guess you can see the Act Blue contributions to other candidates that have been made. You just have to report them. This has to be accurate. You have to report them. Some of these are actually reported. The contributions here I was able to match up through that were reported, but you got to report the expenditures as well. So this one was for month of, I believe, June. There is contribution, recurring payment. There's some Delta flights, United flights that were not reported. Another recurring payment, a check that was made that doesn't match up to any of the time periods, or that was made in July. It doesn't match up to any time periods, and it didn't match up for any amount. So it's $250 there. It just never shows up in an expenditure on the expenditure side of a disclosure report.
So there's no, I guess, contention that any of these expenditures were not related to his actual campaign?
As best I can tell, no. It seems as if most of them are ordinary and necessary expenses. I do have some questions about the gasoline, but without seeing documentation on that, I can't make that make that allegation that they're not ordinary and necessary expenses without more information. So I've just gone with that they weren't reported here, and I hope to find out more information on that down the line, assuming this case goes to the Office of State Administrative Hearing. So it's just a matter of safety that I made the allegation as failure to report, as opposed to saying they're not ordinary and necessary.
This flight to Norwalk, Connecticut, I mean, how could that be related? Well, yeah, go ahead and tell me.
Well, I mean, because he's an incumbent, they fly to a lot of different states to have meetings or exploration, different committees or study committees. So one of my questions to Mr. Kuzak is, how would you determine, even if you had, if you do have questions about the gas, how is it not a constituent event? I mean, how are you going to be able to show that, I mean, once you're an incumbent, isn't everything you're doing really, trying to, run for office again?
A lot of times, yes.
Not every.
Not everything.
everything.
Not everything.
I don't know, you can have a constituent event anywhere.
But to Commissioner Thompson's point, the flight certainly could be much more easily provable by SLC was in Connecticut. That's, this conference, the gas would be a little harder to pin down without some documentation, but.
Yeah,
Certainly.
and we could ask for, a schedule of campaign events, things like that, or fundraisers. I think as a matter of safety, when it is an incumbent like this and the pattern of it isn't egregious, then I think it's safer to say it just wasn't disclosed as opposed to, some of these jump off the page and this didn't jump off the page to me.
We've had cases before this commission where it's hundreds of dollars of gas every day for weeks and months on end, and you have questions. This does appear to be irregular in the sense that it looks like it very easily could be related to a campaign.
Yes.
Or a constituent event.
This is in August. It's just, some of these are disclosed, and then some are, the ones I've highlighted are just not disclosed. It's just, we have to be better about, the expenditures need to make their way onto a report, because ultimately, the balances just don't match up. It's just going to be, it's chaos. So you have to make sure to disclose all these things, or else the balance that's going to be in the bank account isn't going to come close to what it is on the disclosure reports. So here we have the same recurring sort of payments. We have, a hotel, Ubers, a trip to Washington, D.C. Here in October, we have some ActBlue payments, funds distribution. So all of these, and more gas, but all of these just weren't disclosed that I've highlighted. I'm just taking you through them. So there's a fair amount. I believe at the end it's going to be, I think, roughly 15 violations or 15 things that weren't disclosed that were over the $100 amount. And then there's roughly, I believe, I'll get to it on my next slide, of how many unitemized transactions there were. But this is just laying out these violations that were over $100. There were, I believe, 14 of those, and then there's approximately $1,300 in unitemized expenditures from May 1st, 2022 until January 21st, 2022, which is when the bank records I got ended.
In 2023?
Or 2023, yes, correct. Sorry about that.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, there's a contribution to my state senator.
Right.
That's on the bank account, but not on
The disclosure report.
CCDR.
Correct.
So that's, I mean, presumably that's an okay thing to do,
Yes.
but you have to list it. So you glean that from bank accounts and you can't match it to what
Correct.
okay.
So what I'll do, and just.
And I saw some other
Right, and there's.
candidates
I think
support
there's-
each other. That's the
Correct.
purpose of being in a caucus.
Right, and you just have to disclose it on your disclosure report. These were made, you can tell they're made in the bank account, you can tell who they're made to. Right here, it's just never, when it's filed on the disclosure report, it's just never on there. So it's just a lack of disclosure of what the expenditures were that need to be done here.
But
So-
this is the reports that were filed after we filed a complaint saying nothing was filed.
Correct. So these were trying to
Okay.
bring the account into compliance, bring it in by filing missing reports, and then when the missing reports are filed, they're extremely incorrect. And then, so this is the summary of what we have. There's 3 violations of OCGA 21534C2A, and those are for failing to file the election year reports. There's 1 violation of 21534C1A for the failure to file a June 30th, 2023 non-election year report. And then there's 15 violations of OCGA 21534B1B for failing to disclose the expenditures made by the campaign during this time period.
Over what period of time is that?
So this is from February 1st, 2022 until January 22nd, 2023.
Any further questions from Mr. Cusack? Mr. Rahman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to make a statement or present any type of evidence you would like for us
Take the
to.
PowerPoint down so we can see them.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, one
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to join you via Zoom. Just want to give you a little background about what's going on. And since last year, all this, not necessarily I was, trying to violate any rules, everything else. I am having a serious health problem since last year with COVID. Had a heart attack a couple of times, heart failure, and dealing with multiple, other health issues. I'm currently, as of today, right now, I'm taking like 9 different times medicine a day. It's just been, I'm going through a lot. What happened is even the last session, I didn't attend any caucus meeting, but I did all my legislative duties. I attended all these meetings, everything I could. I was going through all this, health issues. That was the last thing was on my mind, filing this report. And the person who did file this report I somehow, missed some of this reporting. This was, I can assure you, there's not one single penny that was spent, in violation of for personal use. This is either campaign related. I mentioned something said trip to DC, and I was in DC twice by the invitation to meet the president at the White House. Those are the things, some of the stuff that outside that, plane trip that I took. This was something that I joined and in a speaking engagement or something. So nothing is unusual, but some of them have missed. I personally didn't have the time to look at it. And I can tell you as of right now, I talked to the person who filed my paperwork. Is everything as of this morning right now is been corrected, there's 15 items. Somehow she missed it, whatever it is, but it is done now. Even she told me that she still had issues with the program, something called, I guess, carry out numbers, whatever it is, come from one reporting to another, something like that. So I really want the commission to continue these things. If I need a legal advice, whatever it is, I need to get it fixed. There's nothing that I have to hide here, but I need some time. I didn't, hopefully slowly, as the person who filed this form for me, with her, and get to the commission staff and try to want to make sure everything is accounted for. And one of the problem thing is that happened when I received this letter. I actually got it 2 weeks ago. The reason I didn't contact it, initially the receipt came in was, I guess it was dropped in front of my house. And I received both of them together 2 weeks ago, maybe less than 2 weeks ago when I contacted, I tried to call, when you call the commission numbers, it's sometimes very difficult to get through to. I'm a habit of calling, even, as in my last couple of times, my person who is did my filing, even she had a problem logging in, trying to get access. So finally, I think day before yesterday, a couple of days ago, I even emailed Mr. Cusack to say, hey, please, allow her. She's my authorized agent to do my filing, because I don't do all this. I can do it. Initially, 2 years ago, it wasn't too bad. I tried to do myself, but sometimes I have to get help. As a matter of fact, in the last year or so, I had some, donation through ActBlue. I'm thinking that my person probably didn't have access to ActBlue. Maybe that's why she missed it. Whatever the reason is, I'd be honest with you, I really don't know. And I'm no expert on this, but it looks like the system still has some problem. So I don't know if that's what it was, and I want to continue and try to fix it. But as of today, right now, currently, is missing, 15 item what have been, has been corrected and reported as of right now. That's what I can tell. And I'd like to continue these things and make sure that my number is all right, and I'm not going in violation of anything. I need to be corrected. I understand that. That's important to me. And I'll take time, even with my help, whatever it is. I'll take some time. By the time from now until next, hopefully, I'm getting a little better. My doctor's appointment actually, I think it's October 2nd anyway for my next physical. But things are moving in the right direction. But that was one of the reasons that wasn't filing, because last thing on my mind when my health is in serious conditions, is especially with heart failures and everything else, and I put a stent on my bodies and everything else, diabetes and kidneys and everything else, a lot of different things. So that's what that's my my story. So I'll appreciate you considering to continue. So make sure if I miss anything else, be all corrected, and reported.
Mr. Rahman, did you say just a moment ago that you were first placed on notice of these allegations 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, what happened, it was, I guess, when the delivery left it, I guess, knocked the door in the front, so I didn't even, I did both of my bank accounts. So when I got the bank account request, I didn't realize, my understanding, maybe I read it wrong. I thought they sent me your commission sent me a copy that you requested to the bank. I thought the bank was going to send anyway, so that's one of the reasons I didn't, I didn't respond. I was okay. Finally I filed, everything is filed, and that was, that will be taken care of, and will be nothing going to send subpoena. And this letter I find, yes, otherwise it would have been done a few days ago or something like that. Just happened to be, just hadn't seen it, because normally I don't want to go to my front door. So it was sitting there, then I found it and contacted immediately to my person, this and this thing, you need to work on it, and she started working on it, and I think she has some issues accessing to my account or, to make this correction. But as I said, it's been corrected as of right now.
Mr. Cusack, do you have any response to this notice only being provided 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
No, notice probably, mail probably came, it's not that 2 weeks ago, notice did it. The thing I got it myself, when I opened it was like, I guess when they delivered it, they left it at my home, my door or something like the front door, I didn't receive it. It's not that he sent it 2 weeks ago, notice was sent on time, everything is, I just happened to didn't see it,
Do you have the date?
That's my,
No,
that's my.
not in front of me.
This is my fault.
Okay.
Mr. Ahmadi,
Do it earlier, contact to make sure it's been corrected, because I did not even knew this wasn't discussed, because physically I didn't see, I still didn't see the printed copy, because I depended on the person who is filing, the file everything properly.
Mr. Ahmadi, do you have?
I'm gonna make sure, everything else is still okay.
All right, Mr. Ahmadi, do you have those dates?
So the senator was initially served with the complaint of the failure to file any of these reports on December 21st of 2022. And he received another notice on January 30th of 2023 that this case would be on the March 27th commission meeting earlier this year. I think at some point Mr. Cusack realized we had the bank records from the previous case that the senator had. So Mr. Cusack subpoenaed the bank directly and received those records in April of 2023 and served the notice of additional allegations regarding the expenditures in July of 2023. Now, I believe the notice that the senator is referring to would be notice.
This is the last one. This is just recent. This one just came in, for this meeting.
The notice he received on August the 1st of this year would be the notice that your hearing is scheduled for this date, not the notice of the allegations or the violations or any of those matters.
Were, any responses actually filed to the complaints?
No.
And Mr. Rahman, I would normally not ask this question, but I mean, you brought it up. There are 3 violations that are alleged with regard to, foul an election year, CCDR, June 30, September 30, and October 25. You know, were you having health issues all the way back at that time during the election
Yes.
year?
Yes, for 1 year, last 1 year, because I had COVID in summertime, then those, I've been, as a matter of fact, I've been serious health, for long, it's a year now, because I had a heart failure twice, all these things, so last thing on my mind was, filing this CCA report, whatever it is, and that's the fact,
Mr. Rahman,
That's the reason, it's not, we was filed late, and paid the fine, whatever it is, it's okay, that wasn't on my mind, to be honest with you, because when you have a serious health issue, as I said, with the COVID and heart failures and stents and everything, it's been difficult personally,
Did you participate in the 2022 legislative session?
Yes, I did. I did not attend one single because I took excuse. As a matter of fact, you can look at the record that on the Senate, when I went there, when I spoke to my colleagues, what my health situation was, I can't remember the date because that's why I was kind of late. I made the meeting, but I tried to attend in my general session, so I did all of them. But some of the caucuses meetings, some of the other stuff, or any other activities, I did not participate in any activities. But I did do what all my legislative duties, what I had to do. That's what I did. That's for the record. You can talk to all my colleagues, from both sides of the aisle. They know my situation. I've been here long. I've been
So, sir, I guess my problem,
nothing secret.
sir, I guess my question to you is, if you're able to do your legislative duties, then you should be able to file your reports. If you're able to go to Washington DC 2 times and these other plane tickets to the different locations that we have on your bank account, then you should be able to do your reports. So I guess that's my concern.
The legislation I did, that was already filed by then. When I got it everything, when I started went to the session, I didn't file it to those periods. When I went to the session, got everything done. At that particular time, I found someone else to file this one. It was late, but it was filed then.
Mr. Rahman, I mean,
But then was the DCs, everything is after, after that was not, that was not the priority, and that's not the time to do it.
well, Mr. Rahman, what I would like to know is, who's ultimately responsible for filing these reports?
I mean, this me. I'm not saying that it's not. Of course, it's up to me to filing. Definitely. But anyway, my request to be continue this one. So I make sure that everything's okay. So this filing is nothing else missing. And then, as I said, there's still, I was told that some of the carrier numbers amount is difficulty showing up 0, whatever it is, and can report. So I make sure that it don't continue again. Make sure that number is right, and there's nothing wrong with the system. Whatever it is, the system is fixed. Reporting is fixed.
Mr. Cusack, do you have any rebuttal?
I'll just ask, Mr. Rahman, were you in Europe last year from September 30th to about October 10th?
Yes.
And that's during a filing period?
That's filing period too. That's filing period too.
Okay, that's all I had.
Well, Cusack, do you have a remedy for this? Do you have a recommendation?
I made a recommendation of what we would settle this for to the senator.
Well,
I've been told in the
I'm
past
gonna-
to not bring up
kind of jump
negotiation.
in.
Yeah.
Wait a second, Mr. Cusack. I'm going to sort of jump in on that. I'm not sure that any type of negotiations to resolve this or to settle it or what have you should have any bearing on the decisions that's reached here. I mean, does anybody disagree with that?
Can you
I mean,
restate that?
well, yeah, I mean, it's just like when you have a civil case, when you go to trial, the jury should never know what offers were made and what offers were rejected and whatnot.
agree with that.
And so I don't think that actually, should be addressed during the course of a preliminary hearing. Again, if anyone wants to give me an opinion otherwise, okay.
Well, here's what I would, if I can.
Yeah, well, before, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think that Mr. Rahman has technically made a motion to continue. He did phrase it as a motion, but I think it's something that, at least for purposes of the record, needs to be addressed. So is that true, Mr. Rahman, that you are making a motion to continue this preliminary hearing?
That's correct, that's correct. So I can get, if I need a little presentation, I need to make sure the number is right, everything is correct over there. I don't want to come back and think that I didn't do, or whatever is my person was filing, maybe, I didn't, put the right numbers, whatever it is, any mistakes, honest mistake, what it was, And I, make sure everything is right. So I'll have the time to, hopefully by next meeting, resolve it, then whatever goes through, that's fine, There's a fine, I've already paid this fine, but if I have to pay additional fine, whatever it is, penalty, whatever you call it, which is okay, that's, I have to deal with it. But make sure my thing is going to make sure of the reporting things.
I don't think
Commissioner
that he's making a motion. He's making a suggestion to the committee for us to decide if we want to continue.
I agree, because after sitting here and thinking about it, he can't make a motion
Right.
because it can never be seconded.
Right.
And put on the floor. So it's more like, I guess, what would be considered a filing motion with the staff, or request, rather.
So can I ask a question? It sounds like he's already paid a fine. Is that what he just said?
In a previous
That-
case.
In a previous case, he's paid the late fees that are associated with some of the reports.
Okay. And your recommendation here is what?
To,
Find reasonable belief that the act has been violated
All
in the
right.
case be.
yes, and also with the caveat that we can negotiate,
Right. So-
try to get a consent order in this case.
Just to be clear to Mr. Ramon, asking for a continuance, by default, you get that. We still have to rule here today, right? So you still can work with him to work out the details and make sure he has all his disclosures complete.
Correct, and I can also, assuming once the filings are in, I can make sure they're correct as well, so.
I think we
And I
move
think
with
that
our
you-
decision.
No, I think that you're exactly right on that. And it's 30 days before it gets referred to the Office of State Administrative Hearings?
Correct.
So, Mr. Moran, I want to make sure that you do understand that if we were to find reasonable grounds that the Campaign Finance Act were violated, as Mr. Cusack has alleged, that you will then have 30 days to try to work something out with him before it's referred to the State Administrative Hearings. You understand that?
I'm not clear really, I'm not clear. I'm trying to, what I'm asking to continue, make sure I can correct it and then we go back, because I know that for sure, so all this, whatever is, it's like a mistake not putting in whatever it is, but these are all, campaign-related activities, the money was spent,
All right, I think Commissioner Hicks's point was that even if we find reasonable grounds to believe that you violated the Campaign Finance Act, that you still have 30 days to negotiate some type of resolution with Mr. Cusack before this is referred over.
Oh, yeah, that's fine, definitely, that's what I want to do. I want to make sure we resolve the situation, whatever it is, make sure, everything's correct. I want to make sure that my reporting is correct, 100%. That's my number one goal.
Has all the documents, has everything been filed up to date as he contends?
No.
Well, he said that it was done this morning.
Yeah, I haven't been, as of yesterday, they were not.
Person that did filing, she I think they filed something yesterday and something earlier this morning, she told me that some of the things she needed, address and whatever it is, she didn't have it, so I provided her, some of the stuff. So she said it's up to date, by as of this morning, it was done.
As of 8:30 this morning, it was filed.
It was?
Yes.
Everything then is up to date?
I don't think we can answer that.
All right.
We just know something was filed.
Something, yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from Mr. Cusack or Mr. Rahman? All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I'm going to make a motion that reasonable grounds exist that the Campaign Finance Act was violated for 3 violations for failure to file an election year June 30, 2022 CCDR, September 30, 2022 CCDR, and October 25th, 2022 CDR, all in violation of OCGA 21-5-34C2A. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. I'm going to make a second motion that reasonable grounds exist to indicate that Mr. Rahman has committed a violation of the Campaign Finance Act, more specifically, one violation for failure to file a June 30, 2023 non-election year CCDR in violation of OCGA 21-5-34C1A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. I'm going to make one more motion that we find that reasonable grounds exist that Mr. Rahman committed 15 violations of OCGA 21-5-34B1B when he failed to disclose expenditures made by his campaign for a period of time of February the 1st of 2022 through January the 22nd of 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Mr. Rahman, I appreciate you being present. I certainly urge that you get together with commission staff and try to work this out before it gets referred over to the Office of State Administrative Hearings. It would be very beneficial that you contact Mr. Cusack directly and not have contact with just other staff members in the office who are not lawyers, okay?
Yes, I get the only contact that I had even last week after I called the number. It's hard to leave a message, can you get in touch with him, but it looks like the best way to get in touch with email him, because that number that he has is very difficult to get it to. Just one for the record.
Okay, well, that will conclude this matter. Again, thank you for appearing. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agendas. Now would be a good time to actually take a break if anyone needs it.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
If you want to do it early.
Do what?
Do early lunch.
No, we'll wait a second. We're going to be in recess for probably. Back to order.
Before I build it in
I don't think that they're listening. Hey, guys, I'm going to go ahead and call this together, and then we'll vote at the end unless someone wants to change it mid-course. We're going to change we had that movement on the agenda of two that were on preliminary hearings. So for item I is going to be the Christopher Brown matter, and then item J is going to be the Franklin Warner matter. Is that right? The Felicia Franklin Warner matter.
That's correct.
All right. Are we going to take it in order of who's going to be presenting, such that you're going to present all of yours and then we'll just switch over as opposed to doing them in straight order?
That's probably
All right.
best.
Go ahead and proceed then, Mr. Cusack. Call the case as you go through.
All right, the matter A is in the matter of Lorraine Cochran Johnson. She's actually here today behind me. This was a DeKalb County audit case. She is the Super District 7 Commissioner, Board of Commissioners in DeKalb County. And in this matter, there was 16 untimely filed campaign contribution disclosure reports done. There's $2,000 in late fees as the agreed upon amount here. But I'd like to say she has been perhaps the most cooperative candidate and office holder I've ever worked with. Once the subpoena was issued, she actually came up with a binder that was organized and had everything in it that was requested. It was done by time, done by dates. So it was something I'm not used to seeing, of just how prompt, responsive, cooperative, and just got this done right away and did everything we asked of her. So I thought that was important to shout out, because she was in our office right after the subpoena was issued with a binder of everything we needed, and it was even dated, so I could go through it real quickly. So thank you for that. But she's agreed to that, the late fees in this matter, and so that's that case.
Ms. Cochran Johnson, is there anything that you want to say since you came down to the commission?
I would. I'm here to answer for my transgressions.
Would you walk up to the mic, please?
In my case, I believe that if I did not receive funds, I had nothing to report. So when I received this, I remember where it was, the date and time. I've never been summoned for anything or brought before a tribunal. And it just looked so egregious because there was just date after date after date. And ignorance of the law is no defense. But I am not a politician who receives campaigns all throughout each year. So for me, during those 4 times or periods that I should have been reporting, I plain and simply didn't, and I did that for periods of time. And when I would begin to get money, I would file my reports. So with that said, the money is all accurate. I'm very punctual with that type thing, but I plain and simply did not file my campaign disclosures. So I apologize to you. I apologize to the constituency because I take this very personal. Because we want to be ethical. I never want anyone to call into question my judgment or what it is I do. So I'm just here to say that and acknowledge my transgressions. He was easy to work with. You told me what you needed, and I do keep very accurate files, so it was very easy to just Xerox and bring him a great big binder. And hopefully we can move forward, and I will not make another trip down here to stand before you.
I know that I knew you were getting ready to say that you didn't necessarily like it, but I would almost like to invite you to come to every meeting, and we'll allow you to say that before we get into any further preliminary hearings.
Well, and if I might make a recommendation, you know, I looked at the calendar out front. I see some names I recognize. And, you know, we get into these things. I didn't have a political coach. I don't have an advisor per se or anyone that's ever taken me under their wings. But one thing I remember, as soon as I got in office, we had this ethics course, and you had to complete that course. And it was done within a certain window of the days of me walking into DeKalb County, and it was extremely helpful. And you literally had to respond to questions, so it required you to be attentive. And honestly, I would submit to you all that even with my transgressional funds, you all consider engaging someone. I know it's not the responsibility of the commission or the commissioners that could create a series of vignettes so that people are fully aware of what they're getting into. Because in many instances, for me, I can stand here before you and say, being very fastidious, I missed the fact that I had to file campaign disclosures if I wasn't receiving funds. So it was as simple as putting zeros on pages, but it was not done.
And that's, just so you know, that's part of the reason that we made the decision to sort of move outside the Atlanta area so that we could spread out and associate it with these meetings outside the Atlanta area. We're having training days so that you know, folks can actually, you know, get in there and be educated on the issues of the Campaign Finance Act.
Y'all are stealing my thunder for later when I'm going to talk about all the trainings we're now conducting across the state this year to try and do exactly that. Yeah.
And I understand there's one coming up as soon as tomorrow.
Correct.
And let me say that I didn't receive notice. Make sure that you all send notice because that's something that would be beneficial. And honestly, I think people that are considering running for office, I tend to not miss anything. I heard the gentleman to my right indicate that often candidates who fail just want to wash their hands of it because you really don't realize how deep you're in. And I sat here even wondering, you know, people that have leftover funds, I'd want to give it back to the Democratic Party of Georgia just to wash my hands of it if that were an option. But I don't see that it is. So maybe we need to look at also the laws, but make sure you send notice of these public meetings to everyone so that we can be accountable and not stand here like me today and plead ignorance.
All right, well, again, we thank you for being here and giving us that, you know, that guidance as well.
Okay.
We'll certainly
And
take
just
that
let me
into
know how to
consideration.
pay it.
I will say, if all of our cases had your attitude, our commission meetings would last about 15 minutes.
That's
and
right.
not the 3 or 4 hours that they tend to run, so I appreciate both you
I
coming and
thank
your.
y'all, and y'all ain't my problem, I was. But I just look for solutions.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for coming.
All
All right, the next case is case 22-0165-C in the matter of Billy Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell was part of the General Assembly audit case, or audit that we ran. He served in the Georgia House of Representatives since 2002, and he failed to file for election year campaign contribution disclosure reports. He submitted his bank records to the commission. Everything was on the up and up, and he agreed to pay a $500 civil penalty in this matter, and he has already paid his late fees to the commission for all of these reports. The next case is in the matter of Candace Wood Jackson. Ms. Wood Jackson's case number is 22-0138-C. She served on the Atlanta Public Schools Board of Education. She served on the Board of Education for one term, and she failed to timely file 2 campaign contribution disclosure reports, and she's agreed to pay $250 in late fees. She was very responsive and able to close out and terminate her account in this matter, so she doesn't have any more filing obligations anymore, was very prompt about doing that, and just needed some guidance to get there. So she's agreed to that amount in her case.
Or I and J, those aren't yours?
Oh, I'll go ahead and do
Yeah.
I. That's in the matter of Christopher Brown. That was another Atlanta Public
Go
School.
ahead and announce that case number.
Okay, that
Sorry.
case number is 22-0112-C. He was an unsuccessful candidate running for the Atlanta Public Schools Board of Education. He failed to timely file 3 campaign contribution disclosure reports for September 30th, October 25th, and December 31st of his election year. He raised about a total of $200 during the time he was running for office. So he's just agreed to pay $325 in late fees for this, the statutory late fees for this matter.
Jay's not you? Okay. So you'll be starting with D?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is case Miranda Davis Johnson, case 23-0007-C. Ms. Johnson is a DeKalb County Board of Commissioners member since 2016. There were 3 CCDR violations, 5 PFDS violations. There was approximately $30,000 in campaign money that was not reported on appropriate CCDRs going back to 2020, and about approximately $1,600 in campaign money that was spent on matters not related to campaign. In that consent, there's a civil penalty that she agreed to for $5,000 and 8 late fees at $125 each for a total of $1,000. So the total is $6,000 in that consent. Then the next case.
What was that case number? I'm sorry.
That's 23-0007. Did I misstate that? No, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's right.
D. Okay. Then to the next one, E, that's Amy Henry, case 23-0013-C.
Well, this says 0030.
It's different on the actual consent order.
Oh, is it? What do we have there, guys?
Case. Do you have the consent there?
Amy Henry,
Yeah, actually, you know what?
23-0030.
Actually, I have it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have the copy. Give me a minute.
Okay, so the actual case number is 23-0013.
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. I
So it's
misspoke.
a misprint on the agenda, but not on the order.
Okay,
Okay, so 23-0013 is the correct case number.
right.
In that, Ms. Henry was a candidate for Cobb County School Board in the 2022 election cycle, filed a DOI, started raising campaign money, but ultimately terminated her campaign before qualifying, and just unfortunately overlooked the modified reporting schedule that coincides with candidates that filed DOIs but failed to qualify. She returned money to the donors. There were otherwise no irregularities with her campaign account. And so she's agreeing that, consenting that there were 2 CCDRs that were failure to file, the June 30th of 2022 and January 31st, 2023. The consent is a civil penalty of $125 plus 2 late fees at $125 each for a total of $375. The next case, Errol Mitchell, it's case 23-0035-C. Was a candidate for State House District 74 during the 2022 election cycle. unsuccessful in the primary. Had previously run for local city council and apparently mistakenly believed he could file the affidavit for General Assembly candidacy, which he cannot do. That he's not going to raise or spend more than $2,500. So he failed to file any of his election year CCDRs due to his misunderstanding about that. The case originated a few weeks ago. Mr. Mitchell has been very cooperative. He understands campaign finance law better. Due to that, we were able to resolve this case in less than a month, and his entire campaign consisted of $2,000. We agreed to pursue 6 late fees and waive any civil penalties. So he's consenting to 6 late fees, $125 each, for a total of $750. Next case, Misha Maynor. It's case 22-0171-C. She was Georgia General Assembly House District 56 candidate in the 2022 election cycle, and she's also the incumbent, first elected in 2020. Her violations included 3 CCDRs for election year. She didn't file June, September, and October of 2022. That's the election year. And then 1 PFDS failed to file in 2022. She agreed to consent with a civil penalty of $1,000 plus a late fee of $125 for a total of $1,125. Next case, Reginald Scandrett. It's case 23-0025-C. This was a third-party complaint with an amended complaint then done by the staff. Mr. Scandrett was represented by attorney Adam Sparks. He was a candidate and is the sheriff of Henry County. He was a candidate in 2020 election cycle. He won his election. He responded to the issues very quickly that were alleged, and ultimately his violations, he had 6 CCDRs that he failed to timely file. He failed to timely file 2 CCDRs, his December 2020 and June 2021, and he failed to file 4 CCDRs during the 2020 cycle. There was an August 5th one, which was the primary runoff, and then he had a December 2021, June 2022, and December 2022 CCRs. And also, he had 2 personal financial disclosure statements. He failed to file one in 2021 and the other one in 2022. And he had accepted excess campaign contributions from 3 contributors during the 2022 election cycle. The total amount summing the 3 contributors was $3,700. He has refunded those monies. He's agreeing to consent for, on that, civil penalty of $1,625 plus late fees of $250 for a total of $1,825. And then J, Miss Felicia Franklin Warner. It's case 22-0150-C. Ms. Warner has been on the Clayton County Board of Commissioners since 2016. She was represented by attorney Catherine Powers. These are 2020 election year cycle violations. And there were 7 CCDR violations. She did not file election year CCDRs in the year 2020. There were 5 of them that she did not file. And then she didn't file 2 non-election year CCDRs. That would be for June and December of 2021. She had 2 PFDS, personal financial disclosure statement violations in 2020. In her 2022 filings, she failed to disclose her direct ownership in real property. Essentially, it was her residence. And then there was $1,126.34 in campaign money that was spent on expenses that were not campaign related, not ordinary necessary expenses. Those were mostly travel type expenses. And so with those violations, she agreed to consent, a civil penalty of $4,000 plus $250 in late fees for a total of $4,250.
Are there any consent orders that aren't signed yet?
No, they're all
Okay.
signed.
I just want to, we sort of changed the rule on that. I know that in the past, we've gone ahead and approved those that aren't signed. But if we don't have them, signed by the time of the meeting, I'm going to be ready to go to the preliminary hearing on it. Are there any comments, questions for the staff regarding the consent orders? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, good work, guys, on those. Item number 5 on the agenda are the administrative dismissals. Again, there's no action for the commission to actually take on those. Mr. Amati, is there, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cusack, are there any of those that you want to provide comment on?
No.
Good job, take a win.
Well said.
With the list that's actually presented on the agenda, are there any questions, concerns to be raised by any of the commissioners? All right, that's an easy one. Number 5 is gone. We're going to go to item 6 on the agenda, which is the rule repeal for consideration. It deals with Rule 189-3-.12.
Yes, Commissioners, this is the acceptance of lobbyist signatures. With our new lobbyist system, which I'm about to show you how it's going to function, it's going to be an e-signature. So everyone's going to register on our system like they do on the campaign finance side, and there's going to be no need for us to accept any signatures anymore. So we're repealing this rule so that there's no confusion about how signatures need to be done. It all needs to be done online now. So we're getting rid of this rule, and I'll show you how registration is going to work and how it's going to be way easier and way more streamlined with our new system. But getting rid of this rule is going to create less confusion since it won't be on the books anymore.
Were you guys getting facsimile signatures?
No, our fax machine it's not even, it used to be white, it's like an off-white now. That's how old it is. It's collecting dust.
All right. Well, I guess, do I have a motion with regard to repealing Rule 189-3-.12?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Go to item number 7 on the agenda, the overview of the new lobbyist e-filing system.
Is there a reason the executive director's name's on there? Because I'm pretty much guaranteed he didn't do anything with this.
I thought that maybe
credit.
Commissioner Thompson would go ahead and just give this overview for you.
Good. So this is the new lobbyist system that we're implementing. Registration is going to be, normally we had people come in to the office for registration. That's how it's been done for years and years and years. We are going to be able to go fully via computer this year. Or via,
I'm not trying to make light of this.
yeah, oh no, it's
How
fine.
old is that photograph?
I think I was a brand new lawyer at that point, so I was about 25 years old. And I still use it.
Certainly before you were shaving.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
But
Seeing you thought my name being on it would be the biggest joke of this thing.
But all that to say, we have told the lobbyists you can upload your own photo this year. So if you have a picture that you like to use from times when you looked younger and less stressed out and didn't have a kid, you can use that.
Most thrashers would be using one from 20 years ago.
Exactly. So that's one of the new features that actually, it used to be you came into our office and we would take your picture, the lighting's terrible, people hated their pictures, so now you can actually use a passport photo or whatever photo that will fit into the specs to upload for your lobbyist photo.
Is that going to be a requirement for every lobbyist that's already registered to have to go and upload a photo? Or are they going to be able to use the photo that was taken by the commission?
No, they will have to upload a new photo, but you can take that picture. There is a way to get that we can give them that picture, and if it fits the specs and they're able to get it, they could use that photo.
Well, hopefully the specs are the same specs.
Yes, there should be a way to actually take that picture and form it into one that will fit for this photo to upload. All that to say, that's a new feature, and we think that's going to make it easier, especially going to make it easier for out-of-state lobbyists, and it's going to definitely streamline sort of the process of lobbyists registering.
Well, and I'll clarify, there are some veteran lobbyists who just want to come in to the office to do this. And so we do have a computer up there.
Yes.
We can help, so we're not removing the ability to come in, but I think 90% of people will take advantage of the ability to not have to come in.
So the arrows right there with the circle, that is going to be the lobbyist employer information. That is where lobbyists are going to put their clients. So in that case, you are going to fill out, say you are lobbying on behalf of Coca-Cola, you would put in Coca-Cola's information, whoever you report to as their officer, and then you will, what the system will do is then send a confirmation email. In the first year, we will have every client registered in the system. They will start registering into the system to approve their lobbyist. After, as years go on, they won't have to register again. It's just going to be a one-time registration. So lobbyists will register, say they are lobbying on behalf of whatever client there is. The client will then get an email, they will register, but ultimately approve the client to lobby, or approve the lobbyist to lobby on their behalf. The neat thing about that too is if a client wants to fire a lobbyist, they can go on there and remove them. So there's no, so it's sort of easier from that.
Question.
Yes, I figured there'd be a couple.
You know this, the question I have. Is there a concern that our law doesn't allow, first of all, the agency to collect the email addresses of the client, nor require the client to have anything besides sign-in? You know, is all they have to do. Is there any concern that we're overreaching with the law?
No.
This is going to cause some, I can tell you, this is going to cause some blowback.
So, and that's why we're trying to get this message, and I spoke to the GPLA, the Professional Lobbyist Association, in January about this, and saying this is the one wrinkle that is going to be different and possibly harder to do that first year. That getting all these clients registered in there to approve the lobbyist to lobby on their behalf, that's going to be the biggest haul. What we've done is we're hoping to get this out for people to register very soon, within probably the next month and a half, so that there's some runway for them to get their clients registered in the system if they need to. So we're definitely getting the message out there that this is something new, that this is something that's going to have to be done. But it's going to be actually easier for...
All right, don't sell me. Okay. I'm just asking questions because this is going to be a lot of questions. And, you know, how are the email addresses, are they going to be part of, open records request, or how are you guys going to protect that? Because you're getting high-level executives at some very large corporations that do not like to give their email out.
Well, those would be, one, that would be subject to open records anyways with the way we do it now.
No, then.
Yeah,
Not the clients.
The lobbyist authorization forms?
Yeah, but there's no email address on there for the client.
There's contact information, though.
But there's no email address.
Well, so here's what, the easy way around that is you just have, say, one portion of the public affairs, I guess, section. They have one email, they approve everyone, or you can have multiple emails for people to log in. So the client could have, their assistant, the assistant to the assistant, and all the way on down as people to approve. So there can be multiple people approving this. The open records request on that, it's something we'll probably have to discuss internally.
I'm not technological savvy at all. Why do you need the email addresses?
That's going to be their login.
Well, I will tell you that under the Open Records Act, I believe there is there's an exclusion in there for personal email accounts. But I think that may only apply, well, it may apply if it's filed here in Georgia like that, but there is some reference to, those not being disclosed.
Presumably, these wouldn't be personal emails, they'd be their
company.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, they'd be company emails,
Because a
presumably.
personal email would indicate you're lobbying on behalf of the individual, not the organization.
Okay.
Well, well, that's a good question. So you're not going to allow a personal email address? Instead, you're going to mandate that it be a corporate?
I'm not
It's going to be their
I'm
choice.
just asking.
Yeah.
No, that's a question.
I'm just saying, we're not mandating anything, either way.
You're mandating the email address?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you brought the personal one up. You said he couldn't use it.
I said presumably, it would not be the personal, it would be the Coca-Cola that he would provide in the form.
This is going to be fun.
So it's all online, there's no more paperwork. We're going to cut down on actually the paper we accept for this. A neat thing we were able to do, and I talk about streamlining, is at the bottom where our current system has 5 separate reports. So the new system only has 3, and we are able to combine, it used to be the state level, and because of the schedule they're on, they have to be separate, but the state level has different reports due during the General Assembly session, and then it switches to a different filing schedule after. Vendor, state agency, state transportation board all have the same schedule, so we're able to combine that into one. So if you click one and you register as a vendor, you're able to, or you click all 3, you're able to just file one report that's going to show all 3, and then we are able to condense that one.
I do have a question.
Let me finish on the local is a little different, and that's going to have its own one.
What
Yeah.
is it? On exactly what you're talking about. So it's
Yeah.
going to be vendors, state agency, and state transportation all in one?
Yes,
But you have to register them differently?
yes,
So
so,
I'd be able to terminate one of them?
correct.
Okay. that's it.
Yeah, so it'd be like a checkbox where you're doing that. So, and this is one thing, and maybe some pending legislation down the pike that we could suggest, but it really makes no sense that we're all on, after looking at the lobbyist code, it makes no sense that we're on these different schedules where we could just have one report of the same schedule for all the levels, and you just register for your level and you're telling who you're lobbying on behalf of. But that's something to look at in the future. When we've been looking at this, looking at the lobbying code sort of intensely with the system, we've noticed that. This is going to be the request for the client authorization. So you can add as many clients as you need. You know, some people are going to have 100 they're lobbying on behalf of. It's just going to be enter the lobbyist employer name. There'll be a drop-down menu once they are registered, and they can pick that. They'll pick dates, and then the system will automatically send an email to the client to authorize them. So it will be an automated email.
Wait, why does it say will you be making any expenditures and
If
contributions?
That's going to change. This is just the rudimentary version of this.
So we're looking at something that we're not actually implementing.
Well, it's going to be
All right,
very
no, I
similar
got
to
it.
this.
So I need to ask questions. I don't even need to ask questions.
Yeah.
So it won't matter.
And this diverse. Sorry about that.
Feel free to speed through this PowerPoint.
Is this going to increase the time that it takes to do this or decrease the time?
Should decrease the time
Okay.
After the initial process.
after the initial process, yes.
Well,
That caveat.
it definitely will decrease the staff's time, which I think is exactly what you should be doing, because there's no more entry for the staff.
Yeah.
Because everything's mailed in or
Yes.
faxed in.
Yes, it will all be entered, be way less burdensome on staff and way less paper. This is going to be the authorizing officer. They just have to put first and last name, address. They'll put their email, and that's what they're going to ultimately use as their username to log in.
And I'm not trying to bring this up because I'm not trying to invoke more questions, but we can speak to the vendor about maybe that email not being publicly visible.
Oh, I think you have to mandate that. I was talking about open records requests. If,
Yeah.
I can tell you right now.
It's not going to be publicly visible. It should be.
Because it's not required by law.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It shouldn't show up anywhere, but I was just asking if somebody did an open record request because they know the email addresses are there.
Yeah.
Because somebody may want to spam to get more clients.
I understand what you're.
And there's a
saying.
different rule that applies, I know, to your business emails, non-personal emails. I think those are subject to the Open Records Act.
And then here's the home screen that's going to be seen by the lobbyist when they log in. It's sort of neat in that the candidates see the same thing in that they're being shown when reports are due. Like you have a report coming up, it's due today, file the report. There's a disclosure or a report pending. So it's going to be a lot like the on the campaign side where it shows you the due dates. It shows you your first home screen is a reminder to file or what your upcoming filings are. So that's sort of a neat thing in that we're promoting compliance through this. And they have a filer dashboard. It's going to show all the information that they need, any amendment history, payment history, the lobbyist clients, but it's going to allow them to do their filings from there as well. And we've been able to look at candidates when they say they've logged in their account, they can't do anything. We can actually see through this when they've logged in and when they've actually logged into their account, so we can tell who's sort of fibbing and who's not. The correspondence and document images.
It's a little big brother, isn't it?
It's this big government at work.
No, because this is being streamed. I don't want any
Yes.
misperceptions. This is beneficial in that, like with candidates, when candidates say, well, I was logged in, it wouldn't let me file, we can see you haven't been logged in 6 months. Or we can see genuinely, they logged in 3 times in the course of 6 hours, there was some sort of technological issue. It allows us to help people who were trying to do the right thing and know who is just lying.
And that was in jest too, because we can also reset passwords very easily from this, as opposed to the old system where it was a little tougher to reset passwords. We can reset people's passwords, get them in, and ultimately keep track of what correspondence was said. When it says correspondence and document images, we can actually see what was sent to each lobbyist from the automated system. So we have a record of that as well. Talked about that there. Here's what happens when you file reports. You can quickly, if you don't have any activity, it's going to click one box, and that's going to fill all that out, and then you can just go file your report. So if you have no activity, that's it. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be 2 clicks, and your report is filed. If you have any sort of lobbyist expenditures to report, you'll click Add, type in who you're lobbying, what it is. So it'll be a little simpler in that. The political contributions is not going to be in there, but it's going to be sort of a streamlined way. It's transaction-based, if that makes sense, in that you're putting in the transactions, and then the system's going to autofill the report for you. So you're not actually filling out the report, you're putting in what the transactions are, and then the system's filling the report out. It gives you a preview at the end to look and to make sure it was on there, but it's transaction-based. And so this is just what some of the pages look like of what you would have to fill out.
But this is all going to change.
This one's going to change, but most of this is going to be pretty close. We'll have our practice system, our training system is going to be given to us this upcoming Monday for our testing internally to test out registration. So we will be doing that all next week. Mr. Yap, Ms. Barrett, and myself have been working on this for a long time, but we're going to be testing out the final stages of that, making sure everything's good to go for registration, and hopefully registration goes smoothly. I'll say that, but we're excited. The current lobbyist system's on its last legs, and we think this will be make life easier for us going forward. Is that?
Any questions or comments from Mr. Cusack regarding the new lobbyist e-filing system?
2 questions.
Sure.
I think you said this, but all existing lobbyists will have to register from scratch once it rolls out, even
And that's every year.
Mo Thrash will
Yes.
have to.
Yes, and so one
But
thing.
then once you're in, whatever the renewal process is will be,
Yes, and that's one thing that's kind of neat that's different, because normally you have to re-register every year. You go through the registration process. The system's going to allow us to renew registrations. So say you register this year, going forward, you'll just be able to renew if none of the information changes with a couple clicks of the button, as opposed to coming in and filling out every registration thing like they do yearly
Right.
now.
and then with regard to the dreaded CEO's email account, I list 5 companies, and one of them refuses to click yes. Is that lobbyist in bad standing, or can't be certified, or can't lobby for that person, that company, or it's just, they're just a non-compliance?
So
I like to see lobbyists having to at least initially hound their clients to click on that button.
yes, they're initially going to have to hound them to do that.
But what if they don't? Are they?
So you're still, you're not authorized to lobby on behalf of that client
Okay, that's what
at that point. Yes.
That was my rambling.
Yes, and
So
that's why
until the company says, yes, this is my lobbyist, they're not technically allowed to lobby,
correct,
or they do it at their peril.
correct.
Okay. So picking the right email and getting the customer to click.
Yes, that's going to be important for being in communication with whoever has authorized you to lobby on that company's behalf. There's going to be, some.
Because you're going to hear I mean, in addition to Commissioner Thompson's issues of, the spam filter, and I get 100 emails, and
Right.
so, okay.
Yeah.
But once that's happened once, in the renewal process, they're good for, they don't have to do that each year, or each,
We're working on a function right now to where the lobbyist would, if you just want to renew your client for the next year, that the client will just be able to renew them for the next year,
Okay.
which is something we haven't had before. It had to be each client authorizing the lobbyist each year. So we're trying to make that a little bit of an easier process to say, if they're authorized for the next year, you click a button, that's that.
and I'm speaking out of ignorance, the client has to authorize now, it's just on paper.
Correct.
So-
Yes, it's a paper filing by them authorizing, they're signing, authorizing the lobbyist to lobby on their behalf.
So they're used to doing that, it's just not.
It's just going to be different this time.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Cusack?
Yeah, just one more. So the client will have to renew each lobbyist every year. Go in and click,
Yes, yes.
and then if the person who was initially the one who was registered for Coca-Cola, if there's a new person, how do you amend? How would the client amend to put the new email address for the new authorizer for Coca-Cola?
They would just add, they'll be able to remove and then add another person.
Okay, that's good. This place don't get inspired.
And you can have as many people on the client authorization as you want, so.
That would be something you have to work out.
Again, not trying to make light of this or anything, but Ms. Easterwood, if we're going to have any more presentations about the lobbyist e-filing system, make sure these two guys are not sitting beside each other.
Yes, sir.
Or I want a court reporter sitting between us.
Right. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to, I thank you very much for that presentation. I think it certainly clarifies a lot that we need to know. We're going to move on to number 8 on the agenda. Is everyone just good with continuing on and having any kind of lunch break after? Okay. We got the report of the executive director. What you got?
I've got two things before I start, because we are here in Athens, home of the back-to-back national champion Georgia Bulldogs. I wanted to recognize Mr. Cusack, who, if you notice his nameplate, he's got 2 little national championship trophies surrounding it. And I just thought that deserved a little bit of a shout out.
You're just in gold.
Do what?
You're just in gold.
So I'll start sort of out of order with item B, staff update. And I mentioned it briefly at our last meeting, but we have filled out fully our training staff. We're fully staffed for the first time since before COVID. And Ms. Reagan Costin has joined the team as another trainer. And that has helped dovetail into item A that I'll talk about in just a second. But we also have filled a staff attorney position that's been open for well over a year. And so next week we'll have a young attorney named Bryson Carter joining the commission that you all will meet come December. But I think he'll have a few months to get ramped up before he has any cases to present before you.
You say the last name Carter?
McCarter.
McCarter.
So an update on the educational initiative. We talked about this a good bit in July at our last meeting, or June at our last meeting. This is something that in my almost 5 years here, we've never really done the way we're going to do it. When I came on, we did have an educational team, but it seemed like it was pretty much tied to the 285 loop, and that we didn't go anywhere. We didn't provide any opportunities for education and training outside of that, with some limited exceptions. We are now launching a statewide initiative on that front. And so an update just is sort of what we've been doing and what we've got planned. And this is not going to be comprehensive, because we will continue adding opportunities throughout the year. But in July, we joined with the Secretary of State's office. It was a webinar, but it was for their qualifying officers, which are about 300 qualifying officers through the Secretary of State's office throughout the state. Had a good educational session with them. In August, we went to Jefferson, Georgia to meet with Region 5 qualifying officers and spoke to about 20 representatives from about 20 different counties about changes in the law and duties of their local, municipal, and county filing officers. We were actually here Monday for the Georgia Clerks Conference, and I think they were maybe 300 county clerks of court that were there. That some of this falls in their purview, and so we spoke at that conference. We're here again tomorrow at the auxiliary, the extension office, training local candidates. So this will be our first one in this initiative in a few months with local candidates for city and county office. We expect maybe 30 or so local candidates have signed up to be there. And the way this works, because I know we had someone who suggested we give notice to them. What we typically try and do is we set, maybe an hour and a half radius around whatever city we're in, and we send it to all the city and county clerks, local offices within the region. So we're not sending something to people in Statesboro about a training we have up in Hall County. That's not really practical. But we do try and get a general range. So I don't think everyone tomorrow will be from Athens, Clarke County. I think we'll have people from Oconee and Hall and some other locations as well. In Savannah, in October, we'll be going down to COAG, which is the Constitutional Officers Association of Georgia. We'll be speaking to the local elected officials there about the life of campaign cycle, your requirements, sort of basic campaign finance, things they have to worry about. And we'll be talking to, I believe the sort of audience will be probate judges, superior court clerks, tax commissioners, and sheriffs from throughout the state will be there. Later in October, we'll be at Young Harris speaking at the Solicitor General's Conference I think there are over 100 solicitors general between the counties and the municipalities that have their part-time solicitors. I don't think the part-time solicitors will be there, but all the obviously elected ones will. And then in Savannah, dovetailed with our commission meeting, we'll be hosting a training similar to the one we're doing tomorrow for local candidates and local office holders about basic campaign requirements and the life cycle of a campaign. We'll be adding stuff along the way, but I think you can see that we've kind of hit the ground running with this, and we've got a pretty full and robust training schedule we've got ahead of us. And that, Mr. Chairman, is all I have.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Amati?
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm, of course, so in favor of that. I think we needed to get that training outside the metro area.
Yeah.
And again, not to say that it was bad up there, but
Right.
there are a lot of people in South Georgia that just weren't going
Yeah.
to, go up there and do that. So appreciate it. We're going to move to number 9 on the agenda, the report of the Attorney General's office. Ms. Young, do you have anything?
Just a couple of quick updates. Things are relatively quiet on the litigation front. We still have 2 cases pending in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, one on the Leadership Committee statute brought by the Libertarian Party is the only one still pursuing claims under that statute, and another case challenging the constitutionality of the political committee and ballot committee provisions of the Campaign Finance Act. Those have all been fully briefed, and we are just waiting for the 11th Circuit to either issue rulings on the briefs or set oral arguments for those cases. We are back in Fulton Superior Court yet again on our never-ending attempts to enforce a subpoena against the Abrams for Georgia campaign. For the
Which
newer-
campaign?
Stacey Abrams,
Oh.
Abrams for Georgia, and this, for those newer members, this stems back to 2018 and the commission's attempts to figure out what to do when it issues a subpoena and the parties that are subpoenaed simply will not respond and produce the documents. The challenge has been that, although there are statutes in both the Campaign Finance Act and the APA that specifically provide you can issue these subpoenas and they are enforceable, there's no guidance in the statute itself or in case law as to what to do when it comes to enforcing it. So we had a lot of confusion in superior courts in both Gwinnett and Fulton. When presented with these things, the judges had really no idea what to do with the subpoenas and gave us 2 very different results. Went to the Court of Appeals twice. The first time the Court of Appeals said, yes, you can enforce these subpoenas in Fulton Superior Court. And the second time, the Court of Appeals said, no, the Fulton Superior Court may not modify or limit the scope of the subpoenas, and the commission's motion to compel should have been granted. That was entered as a final judgment of the Fulton Superior Court. Despite that, the Abrams campaign is taking the position that they still do not need to produce the documents responsive to the subpoenas. So we have filed a motion in the alternative to enforce the final judgment of the Superior Court or find them in contempt for not complying with that order, or as an alternative, if the Abrams campaign is correct that the final order is not sufficiently directive, that it, because it does not specifically say produce the documents by a certain date, that we get an order that says that to direct them to produce those documents. So hopefully, by the time of the next meeting, we will have gotten all the way through this process, and we will then, for future subpoenas, have a very clear roadmap that can be applied in future cases as to exactly what to do when a party does refuse to produce documents that are subpoenaed.
And these are commission subpoenas, not,
Commission subpoenas.
not your subpoenas.
Correct. And we now know, without a doubt, those are enforceable in Superior Court. We know how to get that done now. And we also know that if a party does not come and file a motion to quash at the commission level, they cannot come into Superior Court and try to argue those arguments that they could have brought here. That was the second Court of Appeals holding on that. On our administrative cases, I represented at the last meeting that we would try to follow suit with the commission's staff in terms of pushing to get older cases cleared up and pushed forward. And we have managed to do that by getting everything up through our most recent batch of referrals. Are now docketed with OSA for hearing, with the exception of a couple of cases that are being intentionally held back for one reason or another. And our hope is in December, at the next meeting, to report that our recent batch has also been submitted for docketing with OSA as well. So we should have a lot of hearings on the administrative cases between now and then, and hopefully some final orders to report on that as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen an order out of OSA since I think we had one when I first joined in April of last year, but not in the last 12 months
Well,
to act upon.
I think it had been the case with the commission. We've had staffing issues in our office and litigation cases keeping us busy, so we did get backlogged for a bit, but that backlog is pretty well caught up now. And hopefully that'll result in final orders coming back to us soon.
Is that it, Ms. Young?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is, for item 10 on the agenda, has anyone signed up for public comment? No? All right. I'm going to move that we adjourn. Got a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much for coming. Y'all did a good job, staff did a good job setting this up for Athens.